Hey guys, A.V. Songbird here, and welcome to A.V. Songbird Reviews The Walking Dead. Fair warning, this might be a little awkward for me at first. I've never done an actual episode by episode review of anything before, but I'm doing this by request, so it might take me a few episodes to warm up, but it's not that I don't have a lot to say. It's not that I don't have an opinion of this show. It's awkward for me to actually sit and put out my opinion of a show scene by scene style for people to listen to and give their own input. So I'm trying to work past nerves to talk to you guys. But I'm an amateur writer. Those of you that are on my channel know that. And amateur writer. I've had poetry published, not books, but I am a writer. And one of the things that I've been taught from a young age, if you're writing a short story, if you're writing a novel, if you're writing a play, if you're writing a script, if you're writing a TV show, one of the hardest things to do is you have between 2 paragraphs and the first 5 pages, when it comes to a movie, the first about 3 to 5 minutes to catch the audience's attention. And if you can't do it in the first 5 minutes, you're kind of screwed. And it doesn't matter how many big names you have in the movie later on or the book or whatever. It doesn't matter what your climax is or what your ending is, because you couldn't get and hold their attention the first 5 minutes. You're already screwed. So I don't know how many times I've rewritten stories because the beginning sucked. So when it comes to watching a TV show or a movie, my husband gets pissed off looking at my Netflix because he'll go through my series, for previously watched, recently watched, and I'll have movies where I'm 2 minutes in, quit, 3 minutes in, quit, 5 minutes in, quit, 1 minute in, quit. And he goes, "Why'd you quit?" And I said, "It didn't catch my attention, or this was wrong, or that was wrong, and I gave up." So the first few minutes are very critical when it comes to catching and holding an audience's attention. And to give you a little bit of backstory on me, when I was 4, I saw my first scary movie, and it was Night of the Living Dead, the black and white one, the George Romero one, the original one. And I remember all these years later, it's still my favorite zombie movie to this day. It's right up there close with Dawn of the Dead, the original, the good one, not the remake, because the original was way better. But I remember I was 4 years old. I saw the first Night of the Living Dead, and I was absolutely hooked on scary movies and zombie movies from then on. And a few years later, when my younger brother saw Night of the Living Dead for himself, he felt the same way. And growing up, any zombie movie we could get our hands on, me and my younger brother watched. We were absolutely addicted to anything zombie. Night of the Living Dead, Return of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, anything zombie related we watched. So all through our lives growing up, we did that. And then my brother and I moved out of my mom's house. We moved on to our separate lives. All of a sudden, my brother contacts me. "Did you hear what they're doing?" And I go, "What?" And he goes, "They're bringing out a TV show about zombies." And I went, "Nuh-uh, they wouldn't do that. That would be crazy. They wouldn't do that. What's it about?" And he goes, "No, they're bringing out this TV show. It's going to be about zombies. It's going to be on A.M.C. And I went, why is A.M.C. doing, why would A.M.C. do that? It's American Movie Club. Why the hell would they do that? And he goes, "Just give it a shot. Maybe it'll last a season." And I'm going, I was with my husband then. My husband likes drama. My husband likes comedy. My husband even likes romantic comedy. My husband doesn't do horror at all. The entire time we've been together, I've been with my husband since 2007, and I only got him into the movie theater to see one scary movie our entire relationship. And that was like the remake of The Crazies, I think, because a friend of mine and me dragged him into the theater for, I think it was her birthday. He doesn't do scary movies. So I sat there and I tried to have the conversation with him in my head before I actually had it with him. And I said, "Honey, they have a show coming out. It's called The Walking Dead. It's about zombies. It's supposed to be a really good show. It's on A.M.C. And he's going, "I don't like scary shit. I don't watch scary shit. Don't ask me to watch scary shit." And I went, "Well, fine. Well, maybe I'll turn it on and won't tell him, right?" Well, I don't want to do that to him. I don't like pulling the wool over his eyes, so I let it go. Nah, it's probably going to be stupid anyway because, a lot of the new scary zombie movies have really sucked lately. So he turns around and he was at work one day. I sat down and I went, hey, they got it on Netflix now. Why don't I watch it on Netflix? So it'd been on for a while and I hadn't been watching it yet. I turn it on, season 1, episode 1, and I sit down and I go, I'll give it 5 minutes to suck. And when it sucks in 5 minutes, I'm turning it off. So I'm sitting there and it opens up and it shows this row of trees with a road, a 2-lane road, or like 3-lane road maybe, going either direction, and these trees. And when I was a little kid, when my dad was in the Air Force, I lived in Texas for 4 years. It's not quite the South, but it's kind of southeast, and it would get 98 degrees there in the summer and be 98 humidity, and it was green, and yeah, it was green. It was the humidity. But you'd step out of the shower and you'd go to walk outside and you'd be more covered in water from being outside than you were in the shower. It was like stepping right into a sauna. And it was worse when it rained because then it made the air sticky and you just felt gross and you'd walk around all day like this because you're just covered in stink. And it was worse with the cicadas. And when I opened the movie, I started giggling because I've told my husband about it before. He only ever went to visit Texas, I think he said once. And I said, you hear those cicadas, and when I hear them in movies now, when I hear them in TV shows, to me, remembering back living in Texas, it makes the air feel heavy and humid, and it reminds me of back when I lived in Texas when I was a little kid. So when The Walking Dead, when I opened it up and I hear cicadas and I see the green and I'm going, I know they're in Georgia, and I'm going, oh shit. Just because it opened up and I'm going, oh, and there's clouds in the background in the air, so it's friggin' humid as hell, right? But it opens up and this police car comes down the road and we meet Rick. He goes to get gas and you see that the world's already gone to hell. He goes to this gas station. There's cars all over everywhere in a makeshift camp. Well, he comes up and this little girl comes walking by the car and you're going, help her. She's a little girl out on her own. Help her. There's no one else around. Help her find her parents. He leans down and he sees her walk by. He gets up and he goes, little girl, I'm a policeman. And he goes to help her because she picks up a teddy bear. Right? And I'm going, oh, she picked up a teddy bear. She must be okay. He goes walking up behind her and all of a sudden she turns around and looks at him and she's got a huge bite here by her face. Poor thing. That must have hurt like a witch. I'm trying to cuss as little as possible. But she's got a bite here, and say what you will, sometimes I will kind of ride the other side of the gross line because I've had medical training. I grew up in a family with nurses and medical people. I had my A.M.C license, so sometimes I'll ride that side of the gross line. If you look at the blood around her mouth, it's dark, it's black blood, it's not blue, it's not red where it's hitting the oxygen, it's black blood, so it's coagulated, it's old blood, it's gone blood. So she's dead. This isn't healing. This isn't nothing. It's just dead blood. It's hanging there. So looking at her, she's dead. And you're going, oh, damn it. It's a little girl, man. And I'm going, why did she pick up the teddy bear? Well, Rick shoots her in the face. And she hits her back. I saw that and I'm going, we're not even to the opening credits yet, and I gotta see what the hell happens. If they did this in the first 5 minutes, what the hell are they gonna do with the other 40? Right? So I'm sitting there and I'm going, I can't watch this without my husband. I can already tell it's gonna at least be something. Maybe it'll be good to the first 30 minutes in before it begins to suck. Right? So I turn it off, and my husband gets home that night, and I went, honey, you really gotta watch this show with me. I don't want to get into it and actually like it if it doesn't suck. And, not have you to share it with. I got to talk with someone about it, right? And he goes, maybe we'll watch it eventually. I'm not in the mood. I don't like that kind of show. Well, I eventually forget about it. The week comes and goes. I come walking in the house like a week or so later, and I forget where I came in from, but it's the weekend, man. He's sitting in his PJs like we do on the weekends, and he's got the TV on, and he's playing on his computer. And I look up at the screen, oh, honey, what are you watching? And he goes, I don't know, just something on TV. And I look up and I'm going, that's Rick. I don't know who the other guy is, but I know that's Rick. It's Andrew Lincoln, and he's wearing his Rick gear. And I look at my hubby. Are you watching The Walking Dead without me? And he goes, he put on the most sheepish look I have ever seen in all my natural life. Maybe. I thought you didn't watch shit like that. I thought you didn't like shit like that. You don't even like anything scary or zombie. Why the hell are you watching The Walking Dead? He goes, the guys at work keep talking about it at lunch. They won't shut the hell up about it. They keep telling me I need to watch it, that it's awesome, that I need to watch it, and they're not going to let me live it down. I have to watch it. It sounds awesome. Really? So I sit there and he goes, do you want me to start it over? And I went, so he hands me over the remote and I restart it and he goes, you're going to make me watch it from the beginning? Oh, hell yes. If we're going to watch this, we're going to do it right. So we sit down and they were like a season in. I think they were part of the way into season 2 by the time I finally got my husband to start watching it. Thank you to his coworkers, because obviously his wife doesn't have good taste. All I did was pick him, right? You think he wouldn't question my taste. I chose him, but we sat down that weekend and we marathoned the first season, and yeah, this is only about the first episode, but I wanted to let you guys know a little of the backstory and how we actually got into it. We sat down and my husband and I watched the first episode together. And there's a small cast on the first episode, and you get to meet Rick, and you get to meet Morgan, and you get to meet Shane. It shows a little bit of backstory of Rick and Shane and Morgan, and you get to know these characters. And what always struck me, and it still strikes me every time I watch that first episode, Andrew Lincoln, from the beginning, the way he talks, the way he carries himself, the way he acts, there's something so personable about his role. You get the feeling that it establishes the fact that there were problems in his marriage, and that things weren't perfect with him, but he cared about it enough to talk to his friend about it, enough to want to fix things in his marriage. He's a cop, so that establishes, he's got a feel for the law. You get to see his relationship with his friend Shane, his partner Shane. And, Shane honestly cared about him. He was worried when Rick got shot. He came to visit him in the hospital. He was one of the people that came to visit Rick in the hospital, which means something. And just Morgan. You meet Morgan, and he could have let Rick die. Rick was nothing to Morgan. He could have let him die. Out there in the street, he didn't have to take care of him. And, a lot of people would let people die in that situation. And the fact that Morgan brought Rick inside and got him up to speed on what was going on. And Lenny James in that role is just amazing. But with as small a cast as the first episode was, what caught me about it was how much they did with it as actors in their roles. And you get a feel for these characters from the beginning. And I cared about Rick. He's a cop. He's looking for his family. He's just a family man looking to find his family. He wants to make sure they're okay. And he doesn't have his job anymore. What he has to worry about is finding his family first and foremost, which I had to feel for him, because if you're in a situation like that, what would you care about? What would you go after? You have to figure most people would go after their family. But you get to meet Morgan, you get to meet Rick, and, at first Rick doesn't know what he's doing, but Morgan tells him about how there's a refugee camp in Atlanta. And, that the CDC is working on a cure there. So Rick decides he's going to go to Atlanta. His family probably went there. So he goes to get on the road to Atlanta and find out Morgan's not ready to go yet. He wants to get a little bit of, practice with his gun to be less rusty under his belt. So Morgan decides to wait there, and he'll wait a few more days before he comes into Atlanta, and he and Rick each have walkie-talkies so that they could get in touch, which is smart. So Rick heads off to Atlanta. Well, that's where we get back up to speed with, okay, here's Rick with the gas can. He ran out of gas. He's looking for gas. And he comes up to this farm where this poor couple, you see the flies before you see anything else, and it's gone wrong in the farm. And the poor people, before they died, they wrote, "God, forgive us" on the wall in blood. And I remember how sad that was. For me to see that they did that, and they felt they had no other choice but to kill themselves, that was the best option for them with the way the world was. They gave up. And Rick goes out and looks in their truck hoping he can find a way to get into town, and he turns around when he can't find the keys and he sees a horse, so he takes a horse and he rides off into Atlanta. I'm skipping ahead. I don't want to miss anything, so I'm skipping through it just so I make sure that, when I talk about it with you guys, I don't miss anything. But Rick goes and he rides this horse all the way into Atlanta, which hopefully not too far for the poor horse. As hot as it gets out there, screw 9 kinds of that. But Rick goes into the city. He's got no idea what he's riding into, but it's Atlanta. You know Atlanta, right? He goes there, and the highway freaked me out. You look at the highway and all the cars are on the highway coming out of Atlanta. There's not a single damn car on the highway going into Atlanta, and you're going, obviously you don't want to go in. What happened to all the cars that were going in? I wanted to know what the hell. But Rick goes riding in on his horse and he sees a couple of, walkers on his way in, but he sees no living people. And he goes around the corner wanting to know, to find his way through the city. And all of a sudden he hears helicopter rotors. And he takes off in that direction trying to get to the helicopter and find out where it's going. And he comes around the corner and all of a sudden you see, all I could think of is it had to be thousands of walkers on this one area. And part of me wondered why the hell they gathered in that area. I mean, was it a sound? Was it and one thing that did bother me is he turned around when he saw the walkers and he went to ride off. Well, the horse freaked out and reared up and it threw him off. And he falls back on his back. The walkers all attack the horse and he manages to get away and get under the tank, right? One thing that did bother me was when he's under the tank, you see him shoot 5 of the walkers, and then he turns around and he goes to turn the gun on himself thinking there's no way out, which if you're under a tank, they're crawling in from all sides, there's not going to be a way out. He's laying under there and he's looking at the walkers on all sides and he goes, Lori, Carl, I'm sorry. What really bothered me is I saw him laying there. I've watched that episode so many times and I didn't see a hatch under the tank when he was laying under the tank. And when he looked up, the camera was inside the tank shooting down at him and all of a sudden there was a hatch. That has always bothered me, is that I didn't see a hatch from the bottom. But he climbs up into the tank and he closes the bottom and finds there's a body inside. He gets a gun and oh my God, that moment hurts me so bad because he takes a gun from a walker in the tank and finds out the walker's alive and he shoots the walker. And you hear this ringing from the ricochet and just that sound, it's so piercing. It disorients you just hearing the sound. It hurt me so bad. It made my teeth grit. Just that ringing. I can still hear it in my head like it's actually happening now. That sound. So Rick's sitting there and he's delirious. He's sitting there and his head's ringing. And he looks up and realizes the hatch and the top's open. So he gets up and kind of staggers his way up to look out through the hatch. And he sees walkers are all the way around. He's got no way to get to the gun bag. And all of a sudden the walkers see him there moving and they come up after him. So he's got to close it and he's sitting there in the tank. You have to figure. Big ass tank. Atlanta, Georgia. Summer. Humidity. Do you know how damn hot it would get in that tank in the summer? Welcome to the sauna, ladies and gentlemen. So he's sitting there in the tank and he's going, you could see the look on his face. What the hell do I do now? He's sitting there with the gun. He checks the bullets and he's sitting there and he's going, now what am I supposed to do? And I did have the question, you're sitting in a tank, it's a rolling tank, they obviously can't get into it. Why didn't he try to start it? I mean, I get it, it's military, you may not know the controls and everything, but you think the guy's still sitting in the tank, he wouldn't have had the chance to run off with the keys possibly. Why wouldn't he check for keys and try to start it? At least if you could run some of them over, if you run enough of them over, maybe it'll be clear enough that you could get away, Just run their asses over. But he's sitting there with the gun, and you could see the look on his face, and he's going, what the hell do I do now? And all of a sudden you hear a crackle, like a radio crackle. Hey, you, dumbass. Yeah, you in the tank. Cozy in there? And then it shows outside the tank, and it zooms out, and the song cues up, and I am going to say it. I love 99% of the music in The Walking Dead. I love that type of bluesy music, and I love 90% of the songs on the soundtrack I listen to. So, yeah, I love the music in the show. So you're sitting there and all of this happened in the first episode. This wasn't the first 2 or 3 episodes. This was one episode, you know? And we've already had someone that was shot. He was in a coma. He's having marital problems. You met his partner. You know, you've got this character that's already a person. He's established who he is. And it's established what he needs to do. He's had the worst day in the history of ever. You know, I sat down and my husband and I watched it together. And I sat there and I looked at him and went, what do you think? And he kind of looked at me and he didn't, you know, he looked at me and I go, what do you think? And he looked at me and he picked up the remote and he hit next episode. And we started into episode 2. And we've been watching it ever since. You know, every time an episode comes out, you know, we watch it. And I laugh. We marathoned that first entire season together. And I laugh. I told him, you hate scary movies. You hate scary shows. And he goes, I really like this one. Leave it alone. So I hope this one turned out okay for you guys. I know it wasn't completely scene by scene, but I didn't want to bore you. I wanted to talk to you about my feelings about the show, you know, and get established some of my backstory for why, you know, because your past experiences and everything color how you look at things. And for me, I like watching shows that help me get immersed in things. And the fact that I grew up in Texas, kind of in the South, and my family comes from Southern people. My grandparents all the way back came from the South, from Arkansas area. So that kind of people I get along with, and people from that area and from that mindset I get along with really well. You know, my grandpa always had the saying, never trust a man with soft hands or clean shoes. I mean, working class type of country type people. You know, so I can connect with people like that. But I laugh. I absolutely love this show. And I hope this first episode, you know, the way I talked about it really helped you guys. And like I said, don't watch this if you haven't seen the show, because I am going to drop spoilers and talk about episodes. But like I said, I'm not going to show scenes from the show. I'm not going to show parts of the show or play audio because I don't want to do copyright. But what I'm going to do is go through and off the cuff let you know what I felt about each episode and about things that happened in each episode and talk about the characters and stuff. So if this is how you guys like, let me know. If you don't like the way I'm doing it, give me suggestions for how you'd like me to do it different. Like I said, I'm not used to doing these reviews, so hopefully it'll get better over time. This has been A.V. Songbird doing The Walking Dead Season 1, Episode 1, Days Gone By. I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. Bye, guys. Hey guys, A.V. Songbird here. I have to talk to you guys for a minute. This is my Walking Dead review, Season 1, Episode 1 addendum. I know those of you that are big fans of the show, like me, are going to kick my ass online style, because I said there was a small cast in the Episode 1, you know, and I only mentioned Lenny James and Andrew Lincoln, and I mentioned Shane and how small a cast it was, and Dwayne, obviously. I forgot to mention a couple of characters. Like I said, it was the first time I've reviewed anything long-term, and I've watched the show so many times I've lost count. You know, it's hard for me to break it down episode by episode, and like I said, I'm fighting over nerves, so I'm working on it, you guys. If you're looking for perfect, this is not the place for you to look. I forgot to mention the fact that when Rick was on the road, when he was actually heading towards Atlanta, he got on his radio and he radioed, and it cuts away to a campsite, and you see an RV in the background, and a young blonde woman. Her name's Amy. We're going to say it for those of you that watched it. Her name's Amy. She goes to pick up the radio. Well, they can't get through to him, but they can hear Rick. And he says he's going into Atlanta. You know, and they can't reach him. And they say, oh, I can't warn him. I can't warn him. And you're going, well, what's wrong with Atlanta? You know, and it cuts away from Rick, and it cuts back to their camp. And, you know, people don't know what they're getting into. And Lori, you know, a brunette, Lori, and Amy say they have no idea what they're getting into. We need to warn folks away from the city. And it shows Shane, and you're going, Shane! You know, Shane goes, well, we don't have the manpower, we don't have the time, and no one goes anywhere by themselves, which, logic in a scary show. You know, logic generally doesn't pop into place in a scary show. They may survive a season, you know, because he says we don't, you know, go out by ourselves, we don't risk people, and we don't risk hardware. You know, so it gives you an idea that something's gone bad. Well, turn around and let me turn that down so you guys can't hear the sound. It shows them at the camp. Well, Lori's pissed off because she wanted to go and warn people away from the city, rig a big sign to let them know, don't go into the city. The city's obviously dangerous. Obviously, it's dangerous. Otherwise, they wouldn't be camped out in the middle of nowhere. You know, why would they be out there if the city was safe? So Lori goes stalking off, you know, and a little boy gets up, her son gets up and goes to follow her, and Shane tells him, nah, just sit down, I got this. And Lori goes into a tent, and Shane follows her into a tent, and he tells her, if you're that pissed off, you know, go ahead and let me have it. Well, she kind of rolls her eyes at him, and they end up kissing. You know, he tells her, you know, your boy's been through enough, you don't go stalking off. What if something happens to you? Your boy's lost too much, he can't lose his mother too. You know, so you're going, oh, he lost a lot. Well, she turns around and kisses Shane, and you're going, oh, Shane found him a thing. That's cool. Shane found him a relationship. You know, it would take the end of the world for someone to put up with Shane, right? No, I'm just kidding. But Shane found him someone, you know, that's really cool. Well, she goes to kiss Shane, and all of a sudden, the scene flashes over. You know, he goes and leaves because he hears Carl coming up, and turn around, and Carl comes walking in. She says, no, Carl, I'm fine. Well, then it flashes over, and it shows you a picture of Rick with what we could only presume is his family on his visor. And it's the woman we just saw kissing Shane and the boy. So I'm going, Shane didn't get himself someone. Shane got himself Rick's someone. But, you know, you have to figure the last Shane saw of Rick, he was in the hospital as far as we know. You know, so there's no telling if Shane knows that Rick's alive or whatever, you know. All we know is Shane is obviously hooking up with Rick's wife. So I'm doing this as an addendum to what I already did. So I'm not going to go through anything else. I know I forgot that the first episode. I went skipping through to make sure I didn't miss anything major. And I didn't want you guys to get mad at me and think that I was ignoring it or that I forgot and that I didn't want to talk about it. So I wanted to pitch it on at the end at least so you guys could at least see it. But I'm going to let you guys go because this one has been really long for a first episode. But like I said, we were getting everything established and everything. So I'm going to let you guys go, and hopefully I'll see you in the next episode. I look forward to hearing your guys' discussion and what your opinions on this first episode was as far as the show and my review. And hopefully we could get the discussion going. I look forward to talking to you guys. This has been A.V. Songbird. I'll see you in the next episode, hopefully. Bye, guys.